All right, Unaspected planets. In typical fashion, of course, the moment you choose a title to talk about a conference, you always get inundated with them, and you have these wonderful experiences of finding them. And whereas I was used to only 1, 2, perhaps 3 unaspected planets in charts, I landed several, lots of 4 unaspected planets, and several which also included just 2 or 3 conjunctions in a chart, not connected into anything else. And I look at those pairings as a grouping which is unaspected as well. Now, an unaspected planet, by my definition, is that it has no major aspect, a major aspect. Your sextile, your square. I do not take in the quincunx as being a major aspect in terms of aspected planets. I take it in as a very important aspect, but in actual fact it tends to add to the difficulty of an unaspected planet. And so therefore I leave it as an unaspected planet as well, to reinforce in my own view what the difficulty is. Right? Now, as I have said, I look at pairings as well, that a conjunction, particularly a close conjunction between 2 planets, otherwise not held into the chart, right, you should also consider to be an unaspected energy, right? And they're individually and jointly unaspected, right? So Mars-Saturn conjunction, not involved in anything else. You're going to look at your Mars as unaspected, you're going to look at your Saturn as unaspected, and then you're going to look at the Mars-Saturn energy by itself as well. All right. Now, the effect of it, of the unaspected planet, is a disjointing. It's an energy which is not integrated into the rest of the chart. So it makes it very, very difficult, in one sense, for the person to get hold of that energy. But on the other side, if they get hold of it, they will go wholly and completely into that energy and leave the rest of the chart out. This isn't until they begin to understand it, begin to know how to integrate it. All right? So that, for example, if the sun is unaspected, and we'll go through the planets a little bit very soon, if the sun is unaspected in the chart, we know that we've got to look towards the moon, all right, to find out what the impulse is, but we will find that the person will act in a lunar way over the rest of the planets and leave the sun out. But then if they find the sun, they will move over into this total willing thing, but in a way which has absolutely no direction whatsoever. Right? Because it's not bringing the other planets into effect. Right? Now, as you look at it, you also find that as this planet is left out, so in a sense it makes the other planets easier to work with. And it can make the person lazy about going across and doing something with that planet. Okay? You understand it. As you try it out, you will find that this does actually happen. They don't feel any urge whatsoever. There's no compulsion, there's no challenge, and even, so often, even a transit to it, to this unaspected planet, all it will do is trigger off the action on the unaspected planet, because its opposition point, of course, is going to be unaspected as well. Right? Or its square is going to be unaspected, because there are no squares in the basic chart. Right? Now, I seek to activate that energy, that solar energy, not solar, all right, but the soul energy, that solitary energy, into the rest of the chart. And I usually try to do it either through the house or the sign which it falls in, and bringing in the planet that is relative to it. For example, if it's an unaspected sun, let's say just in Virgo, in the 5th house, right? We might be seeing a person who is going to be so intensely practical that they never actually have recreation. They never give themselves play. They never give themselves enjoyment. They're trying to be eminently practical. Everything has got to be analysed as being practical because of this Virgo energy in the 5th house. But if we move on into the Leo experience in the 6th house, the work, suddenly we can come back and start looking at creative work, for example, or we look to where the Mercury is falling as the ruler of Virgo and start integrating it in that way. And it does actually work. I also use affirmations with a lot of the personal planets, and we'll go into those individually. Now, when I'm erecting a chart, I always, first of all, adjust my orbs according to what I'm seeing in the whole chart, because everything is repetitive, of course. You never see things just once. And so your orbs may be greater or lesser, and sometimes, what might have been an unaspected planet because of other activity in the chart, it tells you that really it's not going to work as an unaspected planet because other things are automatically bringing it in. So whereas your orb might be 5 degrees, you'll take it out to 6 degrees for this particular Mars, for example, and bring it in. But if you've got, for example, intercepts, right, let's say we'll take Mars, right, and if Aries is intercepted, it's already going to be much harder to bring out. Right? And obviously if it's going to be a 12th house or cadent, it's going to be, again, a little hard to bring out. And so that Mars is going to be reinforcing by being unexpected, and you can see it more clearly. I also go for absolute simplicity when I'm doing a chart anyway. And so I stick to very, very basic stuff when I'm preparing a chart, because it's too easy to be flooded with information anyway. We see orbs at times which are taken to such ridiculous lengths that if you look at them by progression and find out exactly when or if they could ever be partile, you find out that they never come within a degree or two. So in the life experience, it's never actually going to happen. I have seen one person who had a Uranus, got lost it then, who had an aspect between 2 planets. I forget what they were, that an astrologer in England had gone into this whole, oh my God, death, destruction, disaster, how terrible. All right? And they were 12 degrees, 13 degrees apart, and they were outer planets. And it worked out that they would not become partile for 362 years by progression. All right? And so we've got to look at that. So that's the other thing that we've got to look at relative to the orbs and deciding whether they're aspected or unaspected planets. Now then, I've said that we lose the experience of them, or we have difficulty in getting into them, or else, and it works both ways, and you've always got to read your chart this way, with unaspected planets. The person will step out of that experience or wholly into that experience of that energy. Now, when you get more than one unaspected planet, you have that extra scattering, right? In that they'll hop from the life experience that may be contained in 7 planets into one, and they may stay there for a while, and they're leaving out the other 9 effectively, and then they'll hop across to another one, and hop across to another one, occasionally dropping back, and you'll find this very, very disjointed life. It's impossible to put them in a box, all right, in any way, because each thing is happening, and of course each time they pop out, they're going to handle all of life's experience in a different manner, because they're going to fail to see that in actual fact it is affecting their whole life, because they are so wholly contained within this unaspected Mercury or this unaspected Saturn. All right. Now then, any questions at that point? Right. Now, yes.
How do you with the ascendant?
How do you work with the ascendant?
Yeah, if it's totally unaspected and only has to say against care, so it's really
if it's got an aspect to the ascendant, I look on it still in its own right as unaspected. I look very, very much in terms of aspects directly to the planets, and not including the node either. All right? This is my own experience. And if it has no aspect, planet to planet aspects, all right, it will act in an unaspected way. All right? For example, if a planet has only got an aspect to the node, then the person will only have that triggered off, that aspect triggered off in some very vital sort of experience, and admittedly it is going to bring them closer to an understanding of knowledge and how to go forward, all right, in life. But the thing is, they can get, again, so trapped in that they don't get back to the rest of the chart, all right? And it's very isolating. And as far as the ascendant goes, in particular, a person, to my mind, if they've got an aspect from an unaspected planet into the ascendant, first off, they can get trapped in their ascendant, because life can just breeze along. They can stay in that one planetary energy and never do anything with the rest. Too easily. Right? And with midheaven, of course, they can be completely and utterly, it gets to be a Saturnian experience, the whole achievement, honour, duty, reputation. All right? And those people, incidentally, frequently get involved in business to the exclusion of everything else in their lives. Oh, absolutely. And they are not even aware of it. All right? In fact, the psychologists have recently coined a word that horrifies me, called a workophile. All right? Where they say, these people are not really workaholics. It is just that they work 18 hours a day and they enjoy it. But where is life balance? All right? They cannot develop as people. All right? And in astrology, we're into people, not their work. All right? Their work is a function of their being. It's not to be their being. Any other questions? Right. Now, working through the individual planets, of course, the sun is relatively easy, and that we're looking at the vitality, we're looking at the life force, we're looking purely at the key words of the sun, and then removing them. All right? And that's the easiest way to look at the unaspected planets. What does this planet mean? And now remove it. All right? You've just got an eraser. That's all. All right? Yes. An unaspected sun. All right. So it is very, very hard for you. What house?
House 6.
And
Libra.
in Libra. Right. We'll come back to that in a second. Now, what you've got is that the person either eliminates their whole vitality, their work, and of course with the sun, the automatic thing is to look at the other light, which is the moon. Right? And you will usually find that the person will work on entire emotional, which is as distinct from feeling, right? Because it requires a sun to hold it as feeling. Emotion is, of course, an intellectualization of feeling. How I should be, how I should act, how I should react. I should feel sad, I should feel disappointment, I should feel hate. All right? And so that's the way I shall respond to this feeling that I have. All right? And so it will tend to be emotional, right? But not strictly feeling. And everything will relate to the emotional experience. Do you find that? That everything is based in extremely personal, but there's no projection of the vitality. Now then, the next thing that happens is that the person will switch over. And with this person here, your name? Kath. Okay? We're looking at the sun in Libra. Alright? And the person in Libra, of course, let's just take one thing, partnership. Right? Incredibly important. My vitality, my life force is only expressed when I am in partnership. Right? The two makes the one, and it makes a one of me. As I am in partnership, I'm expressing my individuality, my uniqueness, because this is part of my reality of being in partnership. But in the sixth house, of course, there is a belief that I've got to pour my energy into working at it. Right? And the point is that the moment Kath steps over into the sun, all she's thinking of is how to work in it and lighten, as in bringing light to relationship, partnership. All right? Now, some people would look and say, yes, you're being used as a doormat. All right? Look at all the things you do for this person, this partner. You know, you work your little socks off. All right? But it's because she is not bringing the balance of all the rest of the planets in. All right? She's not remembering every other experience, the thinking processes of Mercury, the third house energies. Her whole vitality can only be expressed through work. And of course this will bring in the workaholic as well, right? Because she is going to try and prove her vitality by working, right? And she wants the sun to radiate. She would be absolutely wonderful at work. But the interesting thing is that these people that she is working with will know very, very little about her, because she doesn't bring anything else in. Right? And she'll be friendly, she'll be totally Libra, she'll be the tactful one, the diplomat, and it will be wholly Libra, a pure Libran experience. Right? The indecisiveness doesn't matter whether, you know, how solid the rest of the chart is. You know, outside of work, outside of relationship, all right? When she's working in any other field, you know, she could be the most decisive person, right? Everything else hums so smoothly, right? And so what we have to do here, of course, is to look at that sun and bring it into the chart. Now you've got it in about the fourth house. Leo fourth house? Yeah. So you've got a Leo fourth house. Where's your Venus? In the seventh. In Scorpio. Right? So what we have very much there, to my mind, is a person who has to see that she doesn't have to work for her relationship, and she doesn't have to work at working, right, which is the experience that she's going through. She has to begin to realize that other element of Libra of sharing, right? I give and receive, the sharing experience, the equality experience. I don't have to work, right? I am not. You see, whenever I look at the sun or the ruler of the ascendant in a particular house, and especially the sixth house, I am looking at a person generally who says, I am what I do. Right? I am what I do in the sixth house. Right? I'm only as effective as my work proves me to be. I'm only as good, I'm only as whole as I work. Right? And of course you've got that fifth house Virgo energy, you know, we're into roughly the same thing as I began with. You know, I've got to be practical. Recreation is incredibly hard to get, all right? Because I will feel guilty because I'm not doing something which is useful, right? And yet that Leo, that sun coming back, of course, play is what you need. Right? Your work has got to be play, not work. Right? Your work has got to be creative. Right? And so we've got this experience of bringing that sun in through the creativity in this case, and bringing creativity into all the other dimensions of life. Make their work play, make everything play with the sun unaspected. Right? Any questions there? Any ideas?
What about the ascendant? Surely that should come into wouldn't you be looking at the place ascendant?
Look at the
ascendant sun.
Yes, you've got to look at the entire chart. You really do.
I just thought that was very important in this case.
Yes, you've got Aries rising. Yeah, so you've got Aries rising. The expression of I am, yes. You know, you've got to get back to this recognition of your own individuality. All right?
I particularly agree with that work and recreation, and I actually find that when I have mine, I've got telling with the cold because I just get really I can't remember last day I had
Yes.
time off.
Thank you. There's another important thing about that sixth house, unaspected sun. All right? And Virgo in the fifth house. Without play, she will get sick. All right? Because she'll move into the sun experience and she will express this lack of fun and lack of love and lack of enjoyment of this giving out by getting sick in order that she can get a rest, which is the recreation. All right? That's excellent.
I have an unexpected sun in Taurus in 12,
And
and I don't understand 12 house to begin with.
all right. Of course, the worst part, the worst part about the 12th house is that just about every book finds everything negative that there is about it. All right. One of the first things for you to do is to start looking at the Pisces experience. All right. And you will begin to understand the 12th house. But put very simply, yes, we can look at it as being the ultimate in restriction, the ultimate in limitation, because of course it's that place immediately behind us which is the hardest for us to see and understand. All right? For example, as was put to me, the 12th house also rules those people that you will like, but you will never really understand. So the Taurians will be hard for you to understand. And that's reinforced in this case by that sun in Taurus. All right? But you will go into a wholly Taurian experience. You will try to make anything which is spiritual or inspired, which is some of the positive themes of this 12th house, you'll try to make them practical. Oh, it's no use looking at that. I can't see what to do with it. I can't see how to express it, which is very much a sun function. Right? Because the sun, wherever it lies, should bring light, but when it's unaffected, it unfortunately is almost in an eclipse, you know. It's hidden. Right? It's not bringing light. Okay? Okay? And remembering that the 12th house is also the place where you are making that transition or forming the bridge, and this is the Pisces experience again, is forming the bridge between the human self and the divine self, right? Which means that you will have some understanding of the divine self, but for you to try and shift yourself into it, there is no practical, Taurus, way of doing it. I can't see how to do it. Exactly. All right? And what you've got to do, of course, is stop looking for the way to do it and start realizing that you're already there. All right? You who wants to be part of the divine with this 12th house, right? You want to be part of this universal divine consciousness.
Yes, I see.
All right? Okay? Now, the thing is that you will be able to see the divine in other people.
Yes.
All right? Very, very easily.
Very.
Okay? Think about this. If you didn't have it, couldn't see it, because it's not intellectual, it's experiential. So stop looking for the reasons. All right? Because always you're looking for the reasons of why I could not be, why I am not. Again, 12th house experience. You know, we're saying, I am what I am not. All right? You've got to become aware of what I am and recognize the blessing of it. Right? Because it's an intensely spiritual thing. Right? And furthermore, you've got to begin to realize that through the sun, there's the pleasure, the enjoyment, joy. All right? And also recognizing the practicality, and this for you too, Kath, the practicality of recreation, because the sun, unaspected, has great difficulty in getting recreation, enjoyment, pleasure. Doesn't understand play. And the word recreation is made up of recreation, the creation of the self again. And without recreation, there can be no creation, which is what the sun is also all about. Right? So therefore it becomes important that those people should devote themselves to the practical reality of giving themselves recreation, in order that they may be practical in their working life and in every other field of their being. What I usually say is, give yourself to start with so that you won't have too many guilts. 1 hour per day, which is totally yours. For you, you need to lie in the bath and pamper yourself. But you need to. Okay? But you understand?
Yeah, I know.
If you do it, it would be the greatest therapy that you could give to yourself, to actually lie there and say, for this hour, this is mine absolutely. All right? And then I'm going to be much, much more practical in the other 23 hours. All right? I'm surprised you sleep.
I don't.
You don't. Okay? All right. But the thing is, if you will give yourself recreation, you see, people who don't give themselves recreation never actually work very successfully. All right? Because they're sort of meandering along. You know, all of life's truths are great paradoxes. They really are. All right? And what happens is, you think you've always got to be working, so you try to convince yourself you're working, but you're working very inefficiently. Because you will do, you know, that other great, Parkinson's law, work expands to fill available time. All right? Yes. Whereas if you gave yourself 1 hour, you'd still get the same amount of work done. Does anybody know, there's this part of Parkinson's law, where he turns around and he says, give a person 2 weeks to prepare to go away on a holiday, and they will pack 3 suitcases with X number of items. Give them a week to pack for the same trip, and they will pack 3 suitcases with X items. Give them 2 hours, and they will still pack 3 suitcases with X items. And this, of course, is where work expands to fill available time. All right? Now, the thing is, your practical need in that sun is for creation and recreation. So give to yourself 1 hour. Schedule it. I know you hate being boxed in, all right? But you box things in. So make yourself a schedule and say, this hour is mine. And you do it too, Kat. This hour is mine.
I always want to do it at the end of the day after I've done everything.
Yes.
And then I was sort of into the work.
Yeah. No, you've got to be able to enjoy it. And the important part is not only doing it, but doing it without guilt. Right? I'm going to work more efficiently after this. I'm not allowed to have guilt. I'm going to work more efficiently after I've had this hour off. Right? Okay, now with the moon unaspected, anything more on the sun? Okay, moon unaspected, and to a large extent a void of course moon is an unaspected moon, even though it is applying to aspects when it moves over into the new sign. You know what a void of course moon is? A void of course moon is a moon which is moving from one sign to another and has already made its last aspect. All right? Already made its last aspect before changing signs. And your ephemeris shows you when the moon is void of course. It shows you the times of change. Right? And I think it was last year, we went through about 6 months of void of course moons that were running for something like 30, 36 hours. And there was chaos. Because the moon is the expressions of feelings, and it's also, in mundane astrology, the expressions of the public. All right? And it's your ability to deal with people in the public. All right? Because with the moon, we're looking at those things which you are going to take most personally. So it's going to affect your feelings. Right? And if it is unaspected or void of course, it's going to make it very, very difficult for you to relate. But that's what it's going to seem to be. Remember, there is no such thing as a bad relationship with another person. Right? There is no such thing. There's only a bad relationship with yourself. And what we're looking at when the moon is, there's only a bad relationship with yourself, absolutely. Alright? If you're seeing yourself as of poor value, what have you? Alright? You don't love yourself, so how can you let anybody else love you? There's anybody else who tries to love you, right? And we're going to get more into this in Venus. If anybody else loves you, they're either a fool or an idiot. That's what you're effectively saying. Or a flatterer, right? Because how can you see anything worthy in this person? But that's more Venus. But the moon comes into it to a certain extent as well, because this is so much of feelings. But the key to it, of course, is that the void, of course, moon, to a certain extent, but the unaspected moon has enormous difficulty in expressing its feelings through all of the experiences. Right? And the void, of course, moon brings in the pure Cancer experience into wherever it falls. That ultimately something's going to go snap, right? The last drop of water is going to fall in the earth dam. And that one drop is going to break the dam. And have you watched a Cancerian, emotion without logic? Right? And what happens is, one little thing happens, and this person, this very pure Cancerian, and we're looking at the moon, when a person transfers over to the moon, of course, there is absolutely no ration, there is no order to what they pour out. There will be one little thing that will cause them to start to cry, to express their emotions, and then, damn it, in this world, we always have people who turn around and say, what's wrong? Tell me what's wrong. All right, explain it, which is the last thing you can do to somebody in this situation. All they need to do is bawl their eyes out and tell you all of the things that have gone wrong since the last time the dam broke. All right? And they'll just pour them out and they'll be stupid, disjointed things to our analytical estimation. All right? But for them they're important. Each one is a little drop in the water. And of course these same people will be told you take things too personally. Now person-to-person interaction is personal. And I get sick to death of this thing. Don't take things so personally. Right? It's the anti-Cancer and often the pro-Aquarian attitude and the pro-Virgo attitude. All right? Virgo, Aquarius. But there's got to be a reason. Right? There must be a reason to why this is. And they'll drive the person away. The Cancerian will stop crying. The unaspected moon will stop crying. But they'll move out of the moon experience and they may leave it entirely. And what they're going to do, of course, is not express their feelings. Right? So it's either all feelings or no feelings. And here you've got to bring the person into absolute awareness of their feelings by telling them that it is absolutely loving to express your feelings now. This hurts. It doesn't require anger or aggression, right? Because those come only from suppressed feelings and misperceptions. What we've got to do is say, please, you are hurting me, or that hurts. But equally, that is beautiful. You can get an unaspected moon in just about any sign who claims, of course, to be non-romantic. And at the moment they step into that lunar experience and out of the rest of the chart, what they really want is all the romance, all the hearts and flowers. Think of the Cancerian, the traditions. There is a proper way to do things in terms of feeling experience and emotional expression. All right? And so we have to bring that moon in. Right? And it's very, very easy. Express your feelings as you feel them. There's an excellent line that says, for every thought there is a feeling, for every feeling there is a thought. All right? But don't ask a Cancerian, an unaspected or void of course moon, to try to explain what their thoughts are while they're pouring it out. The intriguing thing is that after they have flooded the place with their tears and all their terrors are spilled out, they will take a big breath, as long as you haven't given them sympathy for God's sake, and say, right, now then let's get on. You've got cancer rising, all right? Once it's all gone, now then, smiles, okay? The sun came out from behind the clouds. It stopped raining. You know, do we need any more explanation, analysis? It just stopped raining. We don't ask why it stopped raining. The clouds went away. The sun came out. How wonderful. All right? And what we're dealing with is feelings without intellectualizing them. And in this society, everything tends to be intellectualized. All right? Now, any questions on the moon? Any unexpected or void of course moons there? You haven't got that as well, have you, Kat?
No.
And incidentally, usually with either the sun or the moon, and unaspected, the other one has got an enormous number of aspects in it. All right, you've got a very heavily aspected moon. All right, it's only, I would only say, 2 or 3 times in the last 6 years have I experienced a sun and a moon, both unaspected. All right, and those people are incredibly difficult because there is neither the will nor the vitality. You know, you're trying to hop. You know, you're trying to bring in the 2 energies, right? But you can only bring in one at a time. When you're working with them, you've got to bring in one energy, bring it into their chart, and then put it outside again, right? And then take the sun energy, for example, which just brought the moon energy in, which incidentally is the best one to work with because it is receptive, all right? So we work with the moon first. In fact, if you've got multiple unaspecteds and the moon is one of them, always work with the moon first. Right? So you bring that in. Make them receptive so that you can bring out the rest. Because, of course, a person who cannot express feelings has equal difficulty in understanding the feelings of others. And this is why they get so involved in the need to be needed. I mean, a moon person steps into a solely lunar experience, and their need to be needed is such that they will go out and try to help everybody. But they won't just use advice or something like that. These are the people who give bread to the starving instead of showing them how to plant wheat. All right? They're also the people, of course, who see an old lady standing at a curb, and so they rush up and they grab the lady and they whisk her gently across the road, and then they come back and off they go. And you know, they've done it so beautifully, all right, that nobody can object. But the old lady now across the street waits till this person has gone and then comes back to the street to where they were waiting for the car to come and pick them up. All right? It's fulfilling your need to be needed. In other words, the person with that difficult moon. And this can, of course, be the extreme of the Cancer experience. And notice, incidentally, that we're looking at the purity of the signs in the most, the most simple terms. Right? So we remove that, the feelings, the needs, of course, with the moon, which are emotionally based. All right. Mercury. And understand, incidentally, that from now on, where the planet is also retrograde, it makes it much worse. It reinforces this energy. And we'll see this particularly with Venus and Mars. But with Mercury, of course, the first one is in terms of their communication, they will either have so much to say that they can't spit it all out, or at a critical time, they will turn around and they can't think of what to say. The Mercury has just got lost. Right? And they can't communicate. Right? Or else it's all communication. One or the other. And if you get a retrograde Mercury, of course, so often you're getting the person who, when they step into the Mercury experience, is only talking about yesterday. Particularly with an unaspected Mercury, because suddenly they've got somebody to listen to them. And they've suddenly found their tongue. All right? And so they pour it all out, and it's all over the place. Okay? It makes thinking hard to integrate. All right? Thinking is hard to integrate. And the worst part about it is that the Mercury unaspected tends to believe that they've got to think. And so here they are sitting on this side of their chart looking at that Mercury over there, which is also the ruler of Virgo, and saying, my God, because I don't understand, or because I can't think, or I haven't worked it out, I am grossly imperfect. All right? And so they will turn around and they will start telling themselves how imperfect they are. All right? They won't tend to tell other people, but they will tell themselves. And their mind chatter, because of the difficulty of outward expression of this Mercury, they will unfortunately, in many cases, they will unfortunately have incredible mind chatter. In other words, they will be telling themselves all the reasons why they can't be, why they're not. All right? And what we have to do there is to bring in the understanding, first of all, to my mind, of Virgo. You know, Virgo that is seeking perfection is recognizing imperfection, right? Instead of recognizing its own completeness. You know, I see that that progression from Aries to Virgo as coming to the completion of the me before I go on to the experience of relationship and the other 6 signs. All right? So that at Aries, I am, and I have to remember that. All right? That my individuality is a perfect expression of myself as long as I am being truthful and honest about myself. And in Taurus, I learn the sense of values, but I mustn't forget the Aries experience. And in Gemini, I'm learning the thinking experience, but I mustn't forget that I still am and I still have. And in Cancer, I'm now feeling, but I mustn't forget that I still think and have and am. And in Leo, now we're getting into the expression of love. All right? I'm a loving person. I'm also a feeling person, which should be reminding them, of course, that they are therefore lovable if they're loving. All right? And then on we go backwards, but I still think, so I've still got to use my consciousness, and I've still got to use my sense of values, and I've still got to be myself. And then in Virgo, I'm looking at the completion. Now really I should be looking back, not at what I am not, but saying to myself, all right, I am, I have, I think, I feel, I love. Whew, let's have a little rest and get that whole act together, all right, in realization rather than in criticism, which is a negative Virgo experience. All right? So that it's bringing a person to recognizing their own innate completeness first by bringing that Mercury in. I find it easier to work with the Mercury because in this thinking world where everything has got to be intellectual, you know, we have placed intellect on a pinnacle up there, and feeling is way down the list, and spirituality is way down the list, and of course right at the bottom we have the physical world, which includes your body proper. My God, you're ugly. All right? You must never see yourself as attractive, and if you are, regret it. All right? You must never be sexual. For part more of the body physical. You must never have desires of any description. You must never, ever desire money. Right? All the physical elements. And of course they're plugged way at the bottom of this list. So intellect has been put way up on that pedestal. Now if this person who will have experienced an extreme of being brought to being the intellectual person, and the only whole person is the intellectual person, all right, with a Mercury unaspected, will spend a lot of time over in that Mercury, all right, and wondering why all of these other things happen, all right, but having no integration of them. And so that's why I say, let's let go of the thinking process for a moment, move them into the recognition of the perfection of self, and then the recognition that because you're perfect, okay, you don't think the same way as other people. You may be slower, you may be faster, all right? And so the thinking is then integrated. The communication is integrated. Okay, you need a little more time to think. Fine. Take the time to think and then you will find the words. And of course, with Mercury unaspected, you have stress because it rules the nervous system. And so while we're dealing with that, Mercury, incidentally, also has rulership of the B group vitamins, right, which are associated with stress in the central nervous system to a very large degree. Right? And so these may well be needed, but the person may not be able to pick them up very easily from their foods. Right? So you may have to look at that as well. Right? And that brings in, of course, that health element of Virgo, generally, an integration of it. Right? And suddenly they stop worrying, because, of course, that Mercury unaspected is a wonderful worrier. Right? They sit out there and they worry silently. Right? And because they can't verbalize it, they will more often than not always pretend that everything's sweet. And then they'll be the ones who do the most unexpected things. You know, he was so peaceful yesterday, so calm. Today he's in the mental hospital. Why? All right? He's just stepped out into that Mercury, all right, for too long. So we've got to integrate. There has got to be communication. And what I have found to also to be one of the keys to bringing Mercury into the chart is to get the person to start writing for themselves. I say keep a diary, but do not use a formal diary. All right? Use a hard-covered notebook. And furthermore, don't write every day unless you want to. But for the first week or so, write out your past. Just write it down without analysis. All right? Just purely write it down as experience. All right? Because that Mercury, unaspected, especially if it's retrograde, can be supremely judgmental as well. I have bad experience, I have good experience. All right? Rather than I have experiences. And all experiences are learning experiences. There can be another difficulty also in getting back to basics, because Mercury is, of course, primary education. All right? It's that initial education. And so usually, of course, the Jupiter will be strong, and so get them teaching, because you teach best what you most need to learn. Get them teaching their basics, all right? But make sure that they listen to their own words, because they can have wonderful words, and they come out of the blue, of course, when they're over in that Mercury experience. My God, where did that thought come from? Bing, all right? Because it's nothing obvious, but they're not to worry about it. It just happened. Now, when we get into Venus, any more questions there? Or ideas, please don't hesitate. You know, I mean, I took a hell of a lot in everybody else's talk. When we get into Venus and Mars, all right, we are very, very much into the expression. In my experience, I know others have other ideas, we're very much into the expression of the male and the female, rather the female and the male self. All right? And of course, this has the relationship, the problem, or creates a problem in terms of the relationship with that. For example, Venus. We've got to look at males and females separately here and look at their experience of it. Because, of course, an unaspected Venus in a male chart means that it is very difficult for him to get hold of those things which are ruled by Venus, the goddess of love. All right? The very female, the most female, to my mind, of the planets. Right? And so what we have is, of course, for example, in a very large number of what I call the true gay male, you will get Venus frequently unaspected, frequently retrograde in Aquarius or Scorpio and 8th house. Right? And those elements seem to be so powerful, right? Because there is this complete disjointedness from the female, right, within the self, and of course the way boys are brought up too often is not to express the female self, not to be the artistic. The male in our community is expected to be the intellectual, you see. In fact, to the extent that I say women have not only the elements of better access to education, because they will not take too much of the education because they cannot suppress the feelings, the intuitive function. All right? Any of you who read last December, an article I wrote last December on males in this field, right, where I said women have 6 senses, men only 5, right, is a theory. Because, of course, the whole intuitive, which comes from the sensory and the feeling and the nurturing function, right? Got to go into this to move over to Venus in a moment. In original society, in the caveman society, of course, the woman looked after the smaller unit of her children, her little family around the fire in the cave. The man had to use his instincts, all right, which his intuition is only being aware of the universe, to know where to get food, and also to protect the greater structure, the social structure of the clan. All right? Now, as society has theoretically advanced and theoretically become more civilized, so the male function has gradually diminished. No longer do we need to look after the clan. We've got police for that. Right? We've got politicians. No longer do we have to hunt for the food and know where it is and understand it and use our senses to find it. It comes in cans. All right? But the woman has got to remain intuitive and sensory because her function remains in this world. She has to carry, nurture, and protect the child. Right? And you watch a woman turn around and, you know, she'll be, for example, you know, we'll take the classic ad. She's at the kitchen sink, all right? And she's just seen young Johnny playing in the sandpit and goes, reaches over to do something over at the oven, and she goes to pull it out, and suddenly she says, oh my God. She drops it, she charges out the front door, and she whips Johnny off the road from in front of a truck. All right? How did she know? Right? Except that she was alive to it. The nurturing function was still there. The sensory function was still there, so the woman still got 6 senses. Right? So, what we have, of course, is, moving back to Venus, where I digressed from quite madly, what we have there, of course, is the inability to get hold of this Venus function. And if we look at the Taurian side of Venus function, we're looking at the sense of values. My value. Also, through Libra, my value to others. My value in relationship. What is my beauty, in other words? All right? We're not talking about physical, we're talking about my true beauty. That gives an enormous difficulty in understanding personal love. And strangely here, this weak Venus is usually compensated for by a strong Neptune. Right? Oh, I can understand the unconditional love for the mass. All right? I can heal, I can communicate on that level. Or else, of course, we also have a strong Uranus, which means I can have friendships, but I can't have personal relationships. All right? And so we have this Venus losing its own value very, very easily. Because, of course, my sense of values is outside all of my other experience. All right? Make sense? Okay. And of course, it makes it incredibly difficult to do anything with money or anything in the physical world. All right? Very difficult. And in terms of the male chart, getting back to it, one would expect that the Mars energy would make this person extra macho. But in fact, it doesn't. And that's a peculiar part about it, because what happens is that to have personal relationships, they've got to have that Venus there. It's not a Mars function, it's a Venus function. All right? And so what happens is that when they step over into living with Venus, it will be wholly involved in relationship, but in a most peculiar sense. It will be looking solely and completely at their own comfort, their own luxury, and it becomes a very hedonistic experience. All right? What is the ultimate pleasure? All right? In other words, the values are not integrated into it. All right? The sense of values, because this, more generally than not, the second house experience is also separate from this, even though it's meant to rule the second house, even though it's meant to rule the seventh house. Right? And they will see themselves as wholly a relating person, and yet they will be remarkably selfish with that Venus. You know, it brings in the very, you know, what today's society can recognize as the very worst of the most negative of the female function, even though I cannot agree that society causes it to be that. People cause society, so people choose it, right? And that is that, you know, you have got the indolent Venus, right? And very, very few people are lazy. People say they're lazy and then have to live it out to satisfy their egos. Right? My God, I've told so many people I'm lazy, you know, that if I go to do something, everybody's going to tell me how lazy I am, and I couldn't possibly finish it. Right? Very few people are lazy, but a person who steps outside of their normal structure, and particularly when it comes to relationship and Venus, all right, it will be wholly involved. And when I say hedonism, remember that we are looking at money, all right? We're looking at, strangely enough, all the things that we own, all right? Our possessions. So they've got to be the most beautiful, right? And when I say that a lot of true gay males belong to this, look at the tremendous care that they take in their appearance. Right? Look at the jewelry that they have. All right? The possessions are very, very important. Total luxury. Okay? Not only can they generally afford it more easily, because they only have themselves to look after, right? But they do actually indulge it, and frequently to great excess. Right? So the Venus function. Now, this is an interesting one here to deal with. In fact, I'll go on to Mars for a moment and then come back to dealing with two of them. Because with Venus unaspected or Mars unaspected, there can be a tremendous difficulty in recognizing their own sexuality. If Venus is unaspected in a male chart, Mars unaspected in a female chart, there can be a remarkable difficulty, just the same, in recognizing sexuality. They actually have the choice. All right? But sometimes to choose according to, for example, with Venus unaspected, it makes it difficult to relate to women. Right? Because here's the ultimate female sitting here in Venus. Right? So it makes it very difficult to relate to women. Now, one way of acting it is therefore to not have relationships with women. Which means that when I step over into Venus and start living it, if I'm not going to have relationships with women, then I'm going to have relationships with men, because they're the only ones who are left. Right? Now, the intriguing thing as well is that as you leave out planets, as I said, it makes all the other things easier to handle. And I have had a tremendous succession of gay males through since I started seeing something, which I've been checking out with them. And that is that the gay male is already recognised for being the next after women to acknowledge feelings and intuition. Right? The intellect is usually already well developed, and of course they take care of the physical presence. Right? Now, while they don't have to deal with one planet anywhere in the chart, it makes the others easier to deal with because they've got less energy to deal with. And you've got somebody with 3 planets unaspected who are ignoring them, and they are having a ball with the rest. It's so easy. But they're not whole people. There are these great, toothy gaps missing in their life. All right? But they'd rather not look at them because they don't like missing teeth. You see? So if I don't look at them, I won't see them. When we get, now, as well as this, because of that unaspected Venus, particularly in a male chart here, or in a male chart, is of course that ultimately the whole of Jung's theory comes in that if it is repressed or lost or unknown, it is going to express itself somewhere, whether it's through dreams or through the life force. Right? And so there you get the very effeminate male, that they move wholly into that experience and they start expressing the femaleness by trying to actually be one of them. All right? And then they hop back into the rest of the chart and say, oh no, but I'm male, so I perform all the male functions over here. All right? So there's that hop back and forth. Now, in a female chart, the Venus unaspected can cause incredible loneliness because, again, I do not know what woman is. All right? And so I tend to look out as a woman and look at other women and too often try to emulate them, or too often look and decide I could never be that. All right? So therefore, I am less than. And they will look more and more into the negative, more and more into the positive over there, more and more into what is not them here. All right? And their sense of value just goes down with a crunch. All right? The unaspected Venus in a female chart is very, very difficult. They never know their value in partnership. Their own value in partnership. They cannot see what their value is, what their worth is. These are the people, incidentally, who will turn around and refuse to believe that they have earned their keep, so to speak, within relationship. And frequently they're married to very, very wealthy men. And they turn around and they won't, because they cannot see their worth, they won't take the money. They won't take the extra things. There's one woman that I know who's like this, a sweet, sweet dog, Pisces sun, Pisces rising, unaspected Venus in Aquarius, which compounds the problem, all right? Because it's a detachment from the female, and it's unaspected. Right? And she saved for years to buy her own car. And the husband is worth millions. And the chart shows this man was not tight. All right? But by refusing to accept, he sort of starts realizing that he's not supposed to give. So everybody says, my God, isn't he tight? He's mean. But the thing is, he's been rejected when he's trying to give anyway. All right? So he's been taught meanness by being taught that he is to believe that he is mean. All right? So now he's got to act it out.
My friend's got unaspected Venus in the 5th house.
Yes.
And it's the sun signs in there, it's been clear. So I think it could be.
Yes.
I'm not sure which classes it is.
Yes. Okay. That brings me incidentally to another one. Thank you, Libran. Gross indecision. I mean, this is a Libran experience of decisiveness carried to its ultimate extreme. All right? It is impossible to make decisions. All right? But there, in terms of decisiveness, I always point out there's a delightful little saying that says there is a special place reserved in hell for those who sit on the fence. Right? And the point is that if you're standing on a fence you cannot see what it says stenciled on either side of that fence. One side says right, one side says wrong. Right? But the strange part about it is, if they will act through their Neptune with faith and say, okay, I hop down, 80% of the time at least they will find out it says right. You've got to learn this one too. The other 20% of the time it will say wrong, and they'll say, oops, what the hell, let's change sides. So they walk through the gate that they didn't know was there either. Right? And so that's another aspect to it. There can also be the jumping in partnership for your friend particularly, because she's always saying, you know, but why does he love me? Right? Does he love me for the right reasons? Have I got the right value to him? And of course, nobody can ask that question, why does another person love me? Because if you reverse it and say, why do you love that person? For every word you put in, there'll be 1,000 that you cannot say because they're experiential, not intellectual. The only question that that person must be taught to ask is, do I love him? And of course, then that Venus, which has so much difficulty in commitment, especially in the 5th house, all right, has got to say, all right, to all intents and purposes, you know, I am feeling love for that person, therefore I must commit myself to it, take that step, and then see what happens. Right? And in making that commitment, of course, the important thing comes along that if the person says, oops, no, you're not for me, the person has not had a bad experience, they have had a wonderful experience, because that person has just been told, you can't mix with this person because they're the wrong person for you. Right? Wrong partner. Right? Incidentally, that Mercury, unaspected, is incredibly difficult at asking for things. Right? What you do not ask for, you do not receive, and you don't deserve to either. But ask and you will receive, if not what you think you want, then something infinitely better.
Is that Mercury or Venus?
That's going back to Mercury for a moment. It's just something that I've got. You'll get something infinitely better. It may be wisdom. Right? Another mercurial experience. Right? You've got to ask. All right, Venus, I think we're fairly well covered. And then we go into Mars, which of course we're looking at the dissipation of the energy. We're looking at the dissipation of the male force. The exclusion of it. Now, one of the most fascinating charts I ever had, and the rare one here, was a male gay with Mars unaspected. And what this guy did was, and you know, it just unfolded out of the chart. He used to dress in drag from time to time, and I picked that up. All right? And he had this unaspected Mars in Pisces, and the incredible part about this guy was whenever he totally rejected the male energy, it always bounced back and he landed wholly and completely in Mars. The rest of the chart was excluded, and this otherwise incredibly gentle, sensitive, kind, loving person became an incredibly violent person. Amazingly violent. And I picked it up in his chart that the day after he had gone out in drag, he became ultra-violent, and he would beat up his partner violently. And his partner was about 6'4", 6'5", and he was about 5'8", and he made mincemeat of the guy. It was total, uncontrolled woof of energy. All right? And so for him, I had to point out not to deny the maleness within himself. You know? I'm not saying don't be gay. God's saying it's a choice. Right? But don't deny the male in self. And of course, when we move into the female experience of Mars unaspected, we get this peculiar event happening where in the elimination of that Mars energy from the chart, there is a fighting against the male. There is a tremendous anger directed against the male. And then when they step over into the Mars out of their chart, all of their actions are of the very worst of the male energy. They can be violent, aggressive, all right? And it frequently comes up in the charts of the most ardent, militant, angry, lesbian feminists. I put all of that together because it is a very complete description, all right? And watch their dress, all right? The boiler suits, the total male dress, as a rejecting the male energy, saying we want nothing to do with man, all right? And in the total rejection of it, they assume it, all right? And incidentally, the funny part in terms of going back for a moment for the Venus unaspected in a woman's chart is that they are usually, A, beautiful by the world's standards, all right? Is she beautiful?
No.
She's not. No. But there will be a remarkable attractiveness that draws people to them. Yes. Everybody just flocks around. Okay? And others see them as holy women. All right? The Venus unaspected in the chart. So in that sense, they are attractive. There is an energy about them that draws the male towards them in this case, like pheromones. You see? The attractants in insects to create the mating signal. You see. So we've got this thing there. So the Mars energy. Now, one of the things I do with a difficult Venus or Mars is if the Venus is unaspected, I will make a point of specifying in an affirmation. I will bring in, give them an affirmation, for example. I am a gentle, kind, loving, happy man. And I will specify man. And with a woman with unaspected personal planets, I will specify woman. In other words, it's okay to have these energies and to be male or female. All right? And I will give it to them as an affirmation to bring in that, the woman or the man, because it's starting to integrate the positive with this energy which is lost and which, unless it is integrated, is negatively used. Make sense? Okay, Mars unexpected, of course, the sense of direction and the ability to put into action is very difficult. All right? And these people, incidentally, usually draw about them very, very activating people, but they'll see them as competitors, or they'll see them as people who always try to make me do things. And yet if you look at the chart of the person with an unaspected Mars, they need those people desperately, otherwise they'll go bleh, and they just become blobs, you know. They just fold into the carpet. All right?
I have an unaspected Mars.
Yes.
And I don't relate to anything.
You don't relate, right? Okay. So you can direct your energy. Where have you got it?
Mars in the first house.
Okay.
Pushing all the planets around. But I have Capricorn rising.
Aha. Okay. Now that sense of responsibility, of course, will have limited any, shall we say, extraneous experience. But where you will experience it, thank you very much. You just brought up a good point. In a woman's chart, Mars unaspected, as in a male's chart, Venus unaspected, makes it incredibly difficult. They will call it shyness, to go to the opposite sex. Okay, so that you will be very shy of males. All right? I would say yes. All right? You'll be very shy of the male energy because it's an unknown energy. All right? And for the male with an unaspected Venus, of course, it's an unknown female energy. And with that unknown, with that difficult Mars, or that unaspected Mars, almost certainly your 10th house and the ruler of your 10th house is either severely afflicted or something like that. What's your 10th house cusp? It's a Virgo 10th house cusp. Do you have an extremely critical father? Okay, and in his own way, a very distant one, yet he appeared on the surface to be warm and friendly out there, but not in here.
He was distant.
He was very distant. Okay. So he was not approachable for you as a woman, as a girl, to begin to practice your own femaleness against a safe male. Now, this is an incredible difficulty which happens. In the rejection of males, generally throughout society, which has happened over the last 100-odd years, right? It doesn't seem like that, but what's happened is, first of all, males have been at war. So fathers have been absent for over 100 years, except for the current generation, right? And so women have learned they can cope along, right? And so, to a large extent, males have been brought up to a sense of uselessness, which most women do not realise. A male has been brought up to a sense of uselessness. And then we have, in place of war this time, we are faced with the very, very ferocious feminist concept, which again says males are unnecessary. Let's do without them. All right? Okay? Now, as a result of this, what we land is an intriguing thing. Is the males feel useless. We're told so often that, you know, we do nothing towards the children. All right? The women bring up the children. Right? And so what can happen next is, for some males, their own repressions can make them unavailable for their girl children. Right? And if that father is not there, that safe male, this is the sequence that happens in the development from having two daughters. Right? I've watched this cycle, and it is actually true, and I've tested it out elsewhere. At about 4.5, there is that initial finding of their own sexuality. Right? And the female child will usually sit, very commonly, will sit across the father's knee, right, and thigh, and will just rock. Right? And they gain a sexual experience from it, rocking backwards and forwards. Now, of course, the whole process of rejection of sexuality, if males acknowledge it, of course, oh my God, put them down quickly, right? And the mothers will turn around too often, particularly in my generation, and say, here, don't do that, all right? That's the initial one, all right? And if the male is not there, now, I was aware of it at the same time as I gained knowledge of it, and I knew just to cuddle my daughters. And then when they were happy with themselves, off they went. And the next stage, of course, is that they start trying out on the male. They start testing their wiles in the stupid little ways. And then they go into the flirtation, right? Because this man is supposed to be safe. All right? Now, unfortunately, some are not safe. Okay? That's sad. But worse, in many, many senses, is the fact that too many men are either unaware of it, right, or they don't think they should be involved in the bringing up of their daughters, right? And so the daughter never ever gets a male model, right? And that's why I say this distant man, that Mars energy, means that for you to understand males, all right, you basically have to be incredibly trusting, incredibly, you know, it's got to be all faith. You just have to step forward and experience, to learn, right? And it's a difficult path, right? A very difficult path. But the moment you make the step, in other words, you select down, you see that Mars Unaspected also makes it very difficult for you to go out and select, for you to activate a relationship, all right? In other words, to go out and say, come here.
I've done that.
All right, you've done it. Wonderful first step. In other words, as you select this person, make sure that you select a person that you can truly trust, who is gentle and so on and so forth. And of course, then from that person, you have then got to continue with the honesty, because Mars is Unaspected, has difficulty with honesty as well, but the self in the first house, all right, okay, will hide the self instead. Oh, you know, I'm nothing. All right.
And I'm a Dr. Pisces, Sun and Moon, so that comes from there.
Yeah, you've got that as well. Okay. Okay. But the thing is that as you work through that, the next thing is to ask for what you want, to select the person and say, this is what I need to experience. I do not understand this. This is truth. All right? And furthermore, with Capricorn on your ascendant, you have that incredible responsibility to yourself to do it.
It's hard, I've done it.
Good. Excellent. Okay. If you're not having difficulty with that Mars, you must have done it. All right? Wonderful. Where are we up to? Saturn. Saturn. Have I still got time? Oh my God, we only got to there. Okay. Oh, Jupiter. Jupiter's an interesting one because there you usually have the person who steps in and out of a teaching experience. All right. They want to get out there and be the teacher. All right. But they never ever listen to their own teaching. They do not see that they have a learning function as well. You teach best what you most need to learn. And they have, of course, this flow of wisdom coming in. All right? They just know things while they're sitting over in Jupiter. But what the hell do I do with it? How do I get it across there? All right? How do I get it into the rest of the chart? And the whole key is to tell them to listen to their own teaching, because these people can be amazingly wise. They have amazing wisdom, and it just pops out of nowhere. And it is not on the basic intellectual knowledge, of Mercury, but on the Jupiter level. It is grand. Right? It is very, very inspired. Okay. I better move quickly, haven't I? Saturn. Saturn is an intriguing one because, of course, in fact, with Jupiter and Saturn, let's link them for a moment. Jupiter unaspected has no knowledge of freedom. Right? And so we have to point out to them what freedom is. Freedom is a state of mind. Nobody can give it to you. Nobody can take it away from you. You are free to do whatever you want to do in this world. And with a weak Jupiter, there's usually a strong Saturn. And Saturn says, but I've got to. And this is, of course, misunderstanding the sense of duty and believing that its duty is imposed from without. Now, for both of them, I will tend to use the Saturnian one. I am doing this because I chose to do it. And I get people to say that at every change of their function, whether they think they want to do it or don't think they want to do it. In other words, whether it's going to be enjoyable or unenjoyable in their previous estimation of it. I am doing this because I chose to. And I ask them to do it for 3 days, and I give them very little else. Because in 3 weeks, they will understand exactly what it means. And they will also find that through Saturn, now this unaspected Saturn will involve this also, the person is steeped in duty, and yet they will believe that everybody else, all of that other chart, of course, is imposing duty on me. All right? And I can't get out of it. I'm trapped. Poor me. All right? But you take the duties and responsibilities away from a Capricorn or a Saturn-energized person, and particularly a person with an unaspected Saturn, you take their sense of duty and they've lost their sense of purpose, because their sense of duty is contained within themselves. If somebody didn't tell them to do it, they'd do it anyway. So why worry when somebody tells them to do it? Right? And of course we now link the two of them, a sense of freedom. I said you're free to do whatever you choose to do in this life. But Saturn says, as long as you take responsibility or accept the results of your actions. Right? And we have to understand that we do everything for a purpose of our own good. For example, as we give something to somebody that we love, we get joy in seeing their appreciation of it. We receive. Right? If they just grunted, we'd soon stop giving to them. At the other end of the scale, we do things for people that we don't think we like, or we're professing not to like, right? Because we want to either improve a situation or ensure that it does not get worse. And so we are motivated by our own sense of duty, our own urges. Right? Nobody can impose it upon us. We impose it upon ourselves. Make sense? And so that Saturn experience, now the other thing about the Saturn experience outside the chart is that the person, as I said, can get wholly and completely trapped. I said this at the beginning. They can get themselves involved in a business or achievement-related activity to the exclusion of everything else. This is what the psychologists are calling the workophiles, and I call the extreme workaholic. In fact, it's gone beyond recognition, all right? Because they don't even recognize that something is lacking in their lives until they go to retire, and then there is no purpose to their being. All right? My God, I've done nothing with all of the rest of these planets. All right? I have no other life experience than my work, my duty, my honor, my reputation, and being seen. All right? To have achieved. All right? So you've climbed the mountain, and the mountain has just been removed from under you. All right? There's only one way. Straight down. So that brings in the Saturn. We do not tend to see, of course, Uranus. Uranus, of course, unaspected, brings utter chaos. All right? Everything. It's like lightning. All right? The person either moves out of ever having change into the other side of effecting change everywhere. You know, all right? Because Uranus is electricity. And so we have this change for change's sake. All right? I've got to change things. I've got to change the world. Because you can't change the world, and we've got to move. You can't change the world. Right? You can only change your perception of the world. But as you change your perception of the world, so you will gather about you those people who have the same perception that you do. And as that group grows bigger and bigger and bigger, one day the entire world will have the same perception that you do. At which point you have changed the world. Right? But these Uranus unaspected are either over here or over there. There is no balance between me and society. Right? It's outside me or I'm outside it. Right? It's the germ that's caught penicillin. Right? All the other germs avoided. Okay, Neptune and Pluto, of course, we don't see, but Neptune would be. In fact, I'm sorry, yes, we do see Neptune, some of the Neptune and Virgo people, of course. There we have an incredible difficulty in getting in touch with faith and trust and belief and all of those Pisces experiences. Explain Neptune, remove it. So you have to teach faith and trust and belief. The ultimate of Pisces Neptune experiences, to integrate it into the chart. So things are done without faith, without trust. They're all going to be Virgoan, right? Is it correct? Is it analysed? Is it practical? You know, does it look right? Okay? And with Pluto, of course, we're going to move into acute obsessions wherever that Pluto falls in the chart, all right, in terms of health. It's going to be an obsession. I mean, Pluto is the most powerful of the lot when it is unaspected. Fortunately, it's very, very rare. It's only in a much older group at the present time. But Pluto unaspected can get a whole total absorption, all right, into Pluto. In fact, they tend to neglect the rest of their chart, and it becomes a totally Pluto experience. They will manifest as Scorpios, and there will be no Scorpio there, all right? And there, of course, you've got, you've also got the destructive side of obsession. So you've got to teach reconstruction. You've got to teach out of the ashes, the phoenix experience, all right? Out of the ashes, which was burned. Yes?
My husband has Pluto unaspected in the 10th house, and the American guy that came out and did a workshop,
yes,
he said that it would be something to do with his parents, and my husband never ever knew his parents.
Yes, yes.
So would that fit in?
Yes, yeah, that's an important one actually. They are dead, all right? Not physically dead, because I don't even know that, but for my life they are dead. And that's an interesting one in 4th, 10th houses. In people houses in your chart, all right? Because I don't know where they are. So they might just as well be dead, but I still don't actually know whether they're dead. All right? But it does bring an obsession to prove himself. Right? Incredible obsession. It's all, boom, 10th house stuff. Right? Always trying to do it. And it's powerful. Right? I don't want to be rich, I want to be richest. I don't want to be good, I want to be best. It's striving up to that 10th house. An obsession. And of course there is an acute lack of forgiveness. Right? Very, very difficult to let go of anything. Including hurt and pain and suffering. Right? He's still regretting it. Right? I didn't know. Right? So he's the one in the pain, suffering, hurt, anguish. Right? Anyway, I have to skip those last few because they're waiting to set the tables up. Thank you very much. Okay, well,